All right, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully, welcome everyone. Coach Leanne and I are here to serve you today to answer a really important question. When do I finally say enough? When do I finally say enough? Enough already. No more. How many of you have a really hard time with this topic? When is it that you finally say enough? I mean, this is a season where there probably is a lot of overfunctioning for a lot of you. Most of us do a lot of overfunctioning. I cook more than I cook all year on Thanksgiving Day. So we do overfunction. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm choosing to do that. I want to do that. That's how I can bless my family. But there are times that we are doing it and we don't want to do it. So let's talk about that. When do you say enough is enough? Do you say it when you're still in a good space? Or do you wait till you're like totally fried and you just can't take it anymore?
Leslie, that's such a great question. You were just talking about you when you cook, right? And that you can overcook, overbake, all the things. So when you talked about choices, how do you choose how much or how little you will do even for the holidays? Just me being curious.
Yeah, so I assign different, so people who are coming for my dinner is just family. So I don't have to feel like I have to make sure everything is perfect. I do that on purpose because I don't want to feel that pressure. And so we don't have I'm not a very good hostess in terms of inviting all my neighbors and finding out who my neighbor doesn't have someplace to go for Thanksgiving. I used to do that. But now that I'm working so much, I just can't. I just can't. For me to be able to do it for my family and do it with a good spirit is about the limit of my capacity. And I don't let myself feel guilty. I don't even know if one of my neighbors doesn't have a place to go. And that may be something that the Lord convicts me on. Right now, he hasn't, because I do so many other things that I do feel I'm giving all that I can in certain areas. And sometimes you have to say no to other areas. I can't say yes to everything. And so that's one way. So I limit the people. I limit the menu. So I don't cook, like I buy the rolls. I used to hand make the rolls, Leanne. I used to actually like knead the bread and all the things, like everything had to be perfect. I used to make a pie. I don't make a pie anymore. I just go to Costco and get that pumpkin pie everybody else gets. I don't make a whole turkey anymore. I just make a turkey breast because nobody likes stark meat. It's easier, it cooks faster. So I simplified our meals. I make our favorite things, but I don't make doubles of them so everyone can have tons of leftovers. And so those are the things that I do. How about you? Are you cooking this year?
Well, no, I'm not actually. This is the very first year that we're going to meet friends and actually go out to lunch. In all of my 60 years, I have never not, as long as I can remember, had a very large Thanksgiving meal. And for one, I love to make Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite meals. It's the only time that I make my favorite sweet potato casserole. And, I've done everything from bacon wrapped turkeys to mega savory ones, all the things. But this year is going to be really simple for us. Our families are all doing different things. My daughter has to work and there's a lot going on. And so we're keeping it simple. And when you were just sharing, Leslie, it something really bubbled up for me. We were talking about choices. And when you said, I have my limits, I'm not going on everybody's door and knocking, do you have some place to go? You're realizing what you can do and what you can't do. And you have limits around that. And you put limits around your food. You're not going to have a banquet table set for 500 people. One thing that I'm hearing is that you get to focus on who the Lord has directly given you for your day. And it's in alignment with what God's called you to for this week. Not what it was 10 years ago or what it will even be perhaps 5 years from now, but where it is today. And I think that's important for our topic today as well, because our tolerations, our limits, our capacities shift and change over time, depending on the seasons that each one of us are walking through in this journey called life that we live.
Leanne, that's so true. And I think as women, we sort of put a burden on ourselves that we have to take the responsibility for making everyone happy. And around the holidays, that's especially burdensome. Like I've have to make everyone happy. So I have to make everyone's favorite dish, everyone's favorite dessert, everyone's gift that they want for Christmas. And I feel oppressed and depressed because I'm
Mm.
exhausted and I'm doing too much. And I think women want to be generous. I think by heart, we want to be givers. We want to please people that we love and that we like, and we want to make them happy. I don't think there's anything wrong or sinful about that. I think the problem is that we start to take responsibility for their happiness. And when they put that on us, like, well, if you don't buy me this gift for Christmas, I'm going to be really unhappy. Or mom, if you don't come over for Thanksgiving, or if you don't cook Thanksgiving like you used to, then it's not going to be, we're going to be so unhappy. And then we take that on ourselves, like it's our responsibility to make everyone happy. And it's not just the holidays. I mean, Thanksgiving is 2 days away, so we're talking about that. But when is enough enough? No more. Whatever situation you might find yourself, when is enough enough? No more. Like you say, hey, enough Netflix. I'm going to bed. I need my sleep. Enough ice cream. I've had enough. I don't need a second helping. I'm going to
Wait a
sit
minute.
by myself.
Can we? I love that,
That's the
but can
true
I keep
confessions
it?
here. I had
Can I,
temptations last night to have a second bowl of ice cream.
can I keep it real? Is there ever enough ice cream? I actually wanted some really bad last night after a really, really long day of work, and I didn't dive in, but that doesn't mean I won't today. But is there ever enough ice cream? But we can make light, and this is what's really good about this topic because it's true. This question shows up in every area of our life, doesn't it, Leslie? When do I finally say enough ice cream, enough food? When do I finally say enough spending, enough binging? When do I finally say enough extra weight or not enough of something? And I think I love that we're talking about this because it's helping us even identify some unhealthiness even in me, and then to see the areas in my life where I go, I know when to say no here.
Leanne, share your story about hiking and your walk this last week, because I think it's a beautiful story about there's no perfect answer of when is enough for everybody. There's no perfect answer, like everybody has to agree with me that I've had enough. And so share that
Mm.
story that you shared earlier.
Well, thank you. So, friends, I had the privilege. Well, for the last year, I've been planning to do the Komen 3-day walk for breast cancer in San Diego with a tribe of women. So, we have 9 of us from our community that did it, Leslie, and we joined over 2,000 other participants in San Diego. And we had this expectation. How many of you, if I tell you that we were going to go to San Diego for a weekend, would expect that we would have glorious, perfect weather, be able to walk through the beach, walk through SeaWorld, all the places that are super cool and fun in sunny weather? Well, that wasn't the case at all. San Diego last weekend had unprecedented rain and storms. Day one, we did our 20 miles. It was misty, rainy, on and off, but we did it. Then we got notifications, Leslie, for day two of torrential downpour. They were telling us to shelter in place, not to go out. They said, if you live in San Diego, hunker down.
This is 20 miles. This isn't just 2 blocks. You're walking 20 miles. This takes hours.
It takes hours, like 7 to 8 a day. So this isn't just going out for an afternoon stroll. We had made a commitment to walk the 20. So anyway, we had our group of 9. We had 2,000 other people that were going to be walking, men, women, children, all the things. Okay. The opportunity on day 2 for all of us was to look at the situation, look at the forecast, and make a decision, make a choice whether or not we were going to don the clothing and head outdoors or if we were going to shelter in place. And you know what's really cool about this? No one in the Komen organization forced anybody to do anything. We were not coerced. We were not told what to do. We were encouraged to seek ourselves and ask ourselves if this was something we wanted to do and if we felt led to do it. And so for me, I said yes to the walk. I didn't say that. I said the rain's not going to stop me because I know, well, one of the reasons I knew my why. I knew my why. My why is I believe that we're stronger than the storm when we walk together. And so, because of the women that I work with here, because of all of the women and men in my life that have been impacted cancer, I thought this is nothing compared to what they're going through. And some of you are listening to this and you're battling cancer or disease or some kind of a destructive something, just like I had the weather this past weekend. We have a choice on who we're going to be and how we're going to do it as we step forward into this path that God's called us to. So I chose to step out that morning. I wore, Leslie, to full transparency, I wore the wrong clothes when I first started. I thought it's not going to be that bad. I made up a story in my mind. I don't need the full black poncho, my rain jacket. I didn't think I needed all of it. I got out there. It was horrible. I had to detour back. Fortunately, the walk went right by my hotel. How good is God to provide? The walk went right by my hotel. So I took 10 extra minutes, ran up to my room, grabbed my extra rain clothes, and I headed back out the door. And
But
I
some
made that
women didn't
choice.
go. Yeah,
But
some
that
women didn't go. And how did some women made the different choice? And how free were they to make that choice?
it was powerful because we gave each other, we said before the walk, every woman is doing her own walk. This is your walk. And you're going to do what feels right for you. Your capacity matters. If you don't feel, and we talk about this a lot here in our ministry, safety. If you don't feel safe to go out and walk for whatever reason, your clothing, your footwear, your fears, your past experiences with weather, if you don't feel safety, don't step out that door and walk it unless you're ready. And if you do feel safe, then step out and walk. And if you want to feel safer, then shore yourself up and invite others in or invite in more clothing like I had to do so that you can walk out what God's called you to walk out. And that's what I did. I'm glad I did it. I didn't do it perfect. I shared with you, I almost got blown over more than one time on this walk. And there was times on the walk, Leslie, where I wanted to quit. I wanted to say enough is enough. In fact, we were on the boardwalk in San Diego, the last 3 miles, right at by Mission Bay, and it was blowing so darn hard. All I wanted to do was call a sweet van. You go like this if you want a sweet van to come. Like I surrender. Enough, no more. But that was not an option on the boardwalk. I had no choice. My brain wanted to do this, or my body did, but my brain wanted to keep going. And so there's a lot here I could share. Hey, watch our blog in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be writing a little bit more about it. But thanks for the opportunity, Leslie, to share it, because the women that chose to go, there was no shame. Those of us that went, there was no shame or guilt. We all did what we knew we could or could not do. And we all embraced one another and celebrated one another, whatever choice we made.
So can we give you a principle based on what Leanne's shared, in that if you have a sister or a daughter or a mother who says no, for whatever reason, can you let them? Can you let them without shame, without a guilt trip, without a million questions?
Oh, love that right there.
Yeah. Can I say no to my daughter, to my husband, to myself, to my friend? If I can't do something, can I say no without carrying a heavy guilt trip or having to make a million explanations as to why I can't do it? So as you're listening to this, can you make a promise to yourself that when a sister says no to you, or a daughter or a mother, that you're going to kind of applaud their ability to self-knowledge of, this is my capacity, this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do? So that's our first kind of takeaway is that maybe we can't say no yet. Maybe we don't know how to do that yet because we're too afraid of what people are going to think. But can we be the kind of person that when someone says no to us, that we can let them with grace and not guilt trip them or question them, interrogate them to see if their why you can't do this for me is good enough? Because how many of you get that? When you say no to someone, you've got to come up with a really good reason. And of course, they're going to argue you down. And so the second question I want to ask you is, what is your enough marker? What is your enough marker? When do you finally say, I've had enough, no more, whatever it is, whether it's with respect to your own self or whether it's respect to demands that other people are putting on you? Where is your enough marker? How do you know when you need to say no? And is it a healthy knowing or is it a unhealthy knowing? Like, I only say no when I'm totally exhausted and in bed and can't do it. When do you say no? When is enough for you? Do you have awareness of your capacity of how much you can give graciously? And then you're going to start to resent it, but you might still give to the point of exhaustion.
Leslie, it's so good. It is hard to say no. I see you, CB White. It is hard to say no sometimes. And just that acknowledgement is important and knowing what your meter is. And, I often say there's holy yeses and there's sacred no's, and they're both important. Sometimes we can think that if we say enough and no more, that's being mean or unkind or weak. And I will tell you, sometimes the strongest thing you can ever say is enough and no more. It takes as much courage to say that as it does to say, oh, yes, let's go.
So I wrote 4 things that I have experienced that told me I needed to say no. I'm not proud of them. I'm sorry, I always have this cough here. One is exhaustion. So I let myself get to the point of exhaustion or illness, and then I can say no. Like, why would I do that to myself? Last year, even, I have a strong work ethic. And if I make a commitment to do something, I really want to do it. And last year, I was committed to speak in Pennsylvania. And I wanted to go to Pennsylvania because I used to live in Pennsylvania. All my old friends are there. I was really looking forward to hanging out and speaking there and enjoying. But I had pneumonia. And I was still going to go. I was still going to go because, I think I can do it. I don't feel that bad. And, I'm on meds now. No, I could not do it. I could not do it. My body told me I could not do it. And yet I still wanted to do it. And so sometimes exhaustion or illness is your place of wake up call. And maybe I could have backed myself up a couple days and understood that I was getting sick and needing to make some alternate plans. But, sometimes we just keep going. So mental illness, I see on the chat, sometimes we get depressed, we get depleted, we get flattened out, and then we know we have to say no, or we just can't. We're incapacitated because we're in the hospital or we're in bed sick. And one other way that I used to know that I had to say no is when I would feel angry and resentful. And I would begin to hate the people I was helping because I can't believe you're asking so much of me. And don't you realize, blah, 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 and I'm a busy person. I can't believe you asked me to cook a dinner for a family that needs a dinner when I have a million other things to do. And I would be resentful. I would still do it. And so as I began to be aware of my own spirit and my own body and my own thoughts, I thought, I've got to move this no meter. When is enough back a little? Because if I wait till I'm exhausted, angry, ill, or mental, that's not a good place to stop, right? That's not a good place to wait till you're in that place before you give yourself permission to say no.
That's so good. Leslie, I love that you brought that up. So, exhaustion and resentment, me too. I have stories, we could probably do about 25 lives on this topic alone. And, something else that comes up for me is that when whatever I'm faced with that's right in front of me, that's requiring me to find my yeses or my nos, I have realized that if I am feeling resentful or totally depleted, like I'm running on empty, my gas tank is so low and it's depleting me instead of restoring me, then I know the drain is open. I'm confused. I'm not seeing it clearly. And boy, that energy can come in. And something that I know about the Lord, and I wrote this down in my notes today, because you know what? God will never force us. He will never force us. He calls us into living within our limits and to trusting Him, but He's not going to force us into a place of depletion, not like some of our circumstances can. And so knowing, are you being restored? Are you being reduced? Which one is it? Because that's when I know, okay, maybe I need to push the pause button here.
Yeah, and Leanne, this brings me to another story. So I was just sharing with Leanne, Leanne, before we got started, I got a text from someone who was signing up for our workshop. Can you put the breakdown through workshop signage up there, Leanne, for us?
I can.
So she was asking, why does God allow us to break down before He provides a breakthrough? Isn't that abusive of God? And I thought, what an interesting question.
Mm.
And do you really think God wants you to break down? Or were there signs earlier in the lineage of your being break? Now, sometimes we're a victim of some crime, and we have another question: why does God allow that? That's a whole separate thing. But sometimes we've broken down physically, emotionally, mentally because we haven't used our no. And God has given us a no. He's given us a chooser. He's given us discernment. He's called us to be stewards of our one precious life and our physical body and our mental health. And so sometimes we've ignored God's gentle nudge saying, hey, you need to go to sleep, or you need to stop doing so much, or you need to say no. We've ignored that because we want to be the hero of our family. We want to be the hero of our husband's problems and fix them for him. We want to be the hero of our kids' schoolwork. And so we stay up helping them do their homework when they should be taking responsibility to do their own homework. We are the family chauffeur and the maid for everyone and do everything and think that that's our responsibility, and God's calling us to that. And maybe He isn't. Maybe He isn't. And it's a lie that you've believed that your job is to make everyone else's life work well. Meanwhile, your life is going south.
Yep.
That's not true. And so it might cause you to break down eventually because you have not learned to put the brakes on earlier in your life before you are completely flatlined. And some of us have had to learn that the hard way. And I think women have a harder time. My husband has no problem saying, I don't feel well. I think I'll take a nap. Like, who does that? Like, I never take a nap when I don't feel well. When I don't feel well, I keep doing what I can, unless I'm throwing up sick and can't function. Right. And so, but he's the right one. It's not like he's defective or he's weak. He's doing good self-care. I'm the one who's over functioning. I'm the one who thinks I have to keep the store open even when it's flooded inside and exhausting. Right. And so this is really important, ladies, that you learn to care for yourself, that as a grown-up, that's your responsibility. And if you're caring for so many other people at the cost of your own well-being, that might be a good thing temporarily, but it's not sustainable for a long term.
Right, our piece. I love that you brought up that example, and you and your husband have different capacities as well. And to honor the uniqueness in either one of you, you can learn from each other, right? We all learn from each other, and that's why community is so incredibly important. I'm grateful, right, to be on this team, to have others to learn from, to grow with, and all the things. And something that came up for me, Leslie, when you were sharing, the word performing kept coming up. We're performing, and especially this time of year, we can be all about appearances and performing and all the things. And I think when our peace gets zapped because we're either pretending or performing, we're not able to say, and we won't even know when enough is enough, because we're in a completely different space. We don't even know that there's something called capacity out there until we are drowning. And we want harmony so bad this time of year. And truth be told, I don't like conflict. I don't. I have learned to embrace it and understand it's necessary for my growth, right? I don't love it. I don't love it. I want harmony. I want peace. I just kumbaya. I want people to get along. And so oftentimes I will dismiss my own self and my own capacity to keep the peace and to please others. And then what happens to me is, I would be drowning. And I have felt that in my life in the past. And I don't like the way that feels. I don't want to go there again. And I think sometimes history can be our teacher. It can be our teacher. And so I'd love to ask, our folks that are here with us, right? Has there been a time where you felt like you were drowning? You didn't even, maybe even today's the first time you go, you know what? I didn't even know I had capacity. I didn't know I was allowed to have capacity or limits.
One of the beautiful things about the Lord is that he tells us, blessed are the poor in spirit. It's like, why would I want to be poor in spirit? I want a good self-esteem. And he's not talking about that. He's talking about humility. He's talking about understanding that you are just flesh.
Yeah.
So you're limited. You have limited capacity as flesh. You're not God. You can't fix it all. You don't know it all. You're going to make mistakes. And God doesn't fault you for that. Mistakes aren't necessarily sin. I think Jesus, it says he learned obedience in the things he suffered. I bet Jesus made some mistakes and they felt bad when he made them. And he learned to follow and listen to God through the mistakes that he made. And so I want us to understand that humility in the spiritual sense isn't low self-esteem. It's understanding, I'm just little. I'm just little, a childlike faith. God is big. I am little. I can't fix. I have a friend in my life who's got so many problems, financial, health, family, no support. She's drowning in problems. I can help her with 1 teaspoon, basically. She's got an ocean full of problems. I'm not God. I'm not God. I can't solve all of her dilemma. I can be a caring person, but sometimes enough is enough. I can't do anymore. And it makes me feel bad that she's in this situation, but I'm not God. And knowing my place is freeing because I don't have to carry that burden. Like, what do I need to do next? How do I need to fix this? I can't fix this. It's not mine to fix. It's mine to care about in the way I can care about it, but it's not mine to fix. And maybe some of you are struggling with your husband and he's got overwhelming issues of mental health issues or immaturity issues or ADHD issues or autism issues or financial irresponsibility issues or moral issues. And you're pedaling so hard, trying to fix him. When is enough enough? Can you be a good wife and still have a rotten marriage? Yes. And when is enough enough? When is this rotten marriage impacting you to such a degree? Do you have good boundaries? Do you have good self-care? When is enough enough? I can't listen anymore. I can't talk anymore. I can't help anymore. I've got to take care of me. And I'm not saying you say that out loud to him, but you have to say that to you.
That's right.
So we want to answer some of your questions, but I have a challenge for you. I want to ask you, what if you could say no sooner? Before you were exhausted, before you got furiously angry and resentful, before you got sick, or before you got depressed or anxious? What if you could notice that you're not God for this person? You're not going to be able to fix their life. You give what you want to or you can, and then you know when enough is enough. What if you could do that sooner? How might that feel?
Even just hearing your voice and your inflection go down, and that was so settling, right? Even to my nervous system. And I can imagine to the folks that are here with us today, Leslie, if this is resonating with you, we hope that you've clicked this link right below us because you've got a webinar coming up leslievernick.com/join webinar. And you're going to be going through some of that, right? Change your story, change your life, change your awareness of your capacity, change your life, because some of you have been absolutely carrying the emotional labor in your relationships for years. And that pack is heavy. I'm seeing it in the feed. Some of you are like, I take responsibility for everybody's stuff, all their feelings, all of their emotions. That emotional labor is huge. It's hard enough for me to navigate and regulate my own emotional well-being when there's so much going on in my world and in the world around us. And
Yeah.
I tease myself, Leslie. I tease myself. I harm myself when
Mhm.
I think that I'm responsible for somebody else's emotional agency.
Yeah, Heather said in the chat, I said no for the first time to someone who's been emotionally abusive to me for most of my life, and it felt amazing. Yay for Heather. Yeah, they might not have liked it, but all of a sudden you've got yourself back. Hey, I used to say no to my kids. My kids, all kids, are sassy and sometimes very disrespectful to their parents when they get older. And I would say, you know what? I can't listen to you when you talk to me that way. And I would just turn around and walk away. Right. So I didn't say, no, you can't talk to me. I'm your mother. I didn't do it in an authoritative way. I just did it in a relational kind of way. I can't, you know what? I was abused as a kid all my life. I'm not going through that anymore. Can't hear you. And I would kind of make it a joke in a serious way. But they knew I meant it. Like I was not listening to this when they were being nasty or disrespectful to me. Right. And I didn't wait till I had been so mad at them for treating me that way. First sentence out of their mouth, oops, mom can't do this. That's right. And they learned they weren't going to have any kind of conversation with me when they talked to me in disrespectful ways. And so you teach people how to treat you. And so if you're waiting all the way till you're at the end of your rope, screaming, like one woman said to me, Leanne, she goes, why do I have to hang out the window and threaten to jump before my husband listens to me? I said, because you've never said it clearly enough before you got to that point. But then when you get to that point and you're threatening to jump out the window or threatening divorce or whatever you're threatening, and all of a sudden he's listening to you, he thinks, I have a crazy woman on my hands or she's going through her period, and he's not taking what you say seriously because you're in a state of such dysregulation. He might listen to you in that moment, but he doesn't change. Right? He won't change.
Yeah, but I love what you just said. He will listen, but he's not hearing you. All he is doing is hearing wah, 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 wah. Well, I was just in a coaching situation, Leslie, the other day, right? And we were talking about the thermometer of our emotions. And if normal is 98.6, right? If that's your normal temperature, where is your temperature when you are feeling that space, like you want to jump out of the car, lean your head out of the window, and you haven't communicated? And, some of the women will say, well, gosh, I'm at 200 degrees. And that's really hot for them. And others will say, you know what, I'm at 104 and I can't imagine going to 105. And so this is going to be, based on your experiences. And this is where getting to know you, getting to know your capacity and your agency is so important. It's so important because we don't want to betray ourselves. And I don't know, I've been that woman. I've been that woman in the car who was in the car with someone who was absolutely not listening to me, driving me ever loving mad. And I did this on the dash. Stop. Do you think that person heard a word that I said after I did that?
It just adds to their ammo against you,
It
especially
does.
if you're in a destructive relationship. So be
And
careful, ladies. Be careful. When he
careful.
pushes you to the end of your capacity and you act out, You're the one who's going to look like the crazy one to your children and to the police if he calls them in the moment of your acting out in an aggressive way. So be really, really careful. Leanne, I want to get to our question. So if you have a
Mhm.
question about this, put it in the chat or email at leslievernick.com/question. And we, not email, but submit your question at a link, leslievernick.com/question, and you'll get your question answered without having to put it on our public Facebook page. But I want to review these questions as your takeaways. I want you to write them down. So get a pen. Okay. Question number 1. How many of you take responsibility over and over for something that's not yours to own? You're saying yes to things that you should not be saying yes to at all. Who owns the problem? Whether it's a messy bedroom, whether it's homework, whether your husband can't find his stuff, who owns the problem, you or him? Second, what is your enough marker? Is it exhaustion, angry, outbursts, mental health issues, physical illness? Is that when you say enough? When you are completely wrung out, dry, out of capacity? Third, what if you could say no sooner? What if you could say no sooner for different reasons? Not because you're exhausted, not because you're out of capacity, but just because you don't want to. Like, I don't want to. What about, no, it doesn't light me up to do that. I don't want to go shopping in the mall. I went shopping in the mall on Saturday. Oh, Leanne, I haven't been shopping in a mall for a long time, and I don't think I'll go again. But there was a sale at a store that my husband wanted to go to, and he said, let's go. And I said, okay. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I cannot shop at a mall. So that's my hard no from now on. No shopping at malls. I don't want to. God is not calling me to do this. What if you could say no just because I don't think God's called me to be the hostess for Thanksgiving, and I don't feel any guilt about that. I don't have to go around to all my neighbors finding out who's sitting there all by herself. I would feel bad if I knew about it, but I'm not going to know about it because I'm not going inquiring about it, because that's not what I feel God's calling me to do. And therefore I don't have to feel guilty like I'm not the hostess of the neighborhood. I don't want to be. It doesn't light me up, and I don't feel like God's calling me to do it. So I'm not going to say yes to something that I don't want to do and God's not calling me to, way before I ever get exhausted about it. And the last question is, what stops you from changing your capacity marker from exhaustion, anger, and overwhelm to I don't want to? It doesn't suit me. God's not calling me to it. It doesn't light me up. Can you say no sooner? Can you say enough, no more to yourself about certain things in your life that do not serve your well-being, whether it is that second bowl of ice cream or over-functioning for your husband's dysfunction or your children's dysfunction? You get to decide. But if you're having problems with this, I would really encourage you to come next Thursday, not Thanksgiving Thursday, but the following Thursday, to change your story, change your life. Because sometimes we say, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. That would, and we live in this story that we hate. Mm-hmm. Because we don't understand that we're not the main character of every story, but you're the main character of your story. And how you write your story days every single day of your one precious life. And if you don't take ownership of that and agency of that, of how you want your life story to run, it will live by default. And other people will impress on you that their needs are far more important than yours. And they will try to get you to do what they want, and you will, because you don't know when to say no. And that's not the only thing about changing your story, change your life, but that's one thing that you're going to learn. And it's going to be a whole hour of teaching with a workshop. Leanne, I was just going over it yesterday. It's actually 2 hours of teaching. So now I have to cut 1 hour out. I don't know how it grew so big, but it's bigger and bigger. So now I have to nope, we can't talk about that. We can't talk about that, because there's a lot to learn. And we want to give you chances to practice during the workshop. And so please sign up, show up, because you are going to actually practice with me how to do certain things in the workshop so that you can experience what it feels like to have that internal shift of, oh my gosh, yeah, that happened to me, but I did it different and the story's different. That's amazing. I want to do that more. And we want to show you how to do it. So please sign up. The link is leslievernick.com/join workshop, all one word. You have to sign up because it's not on social media. The workshop is off of social media so that you can be honest and transparent in the chat. You don't have to worry about someone reading it later. And you can ask our questions. We stay an hour afterwards, or an hour and a half sometimes afterwards, with one of my coaches to answer your questions about how do you change your story when your story is one of victimization, brokenness, breakdown, and I can't do it. I can't do it. And if that's your story, it's going to have a really sad ending. But that doesn't have to be your story.
No.
Even when bad things happen, even when hard things, you're in the midst of hard things, that doesn't have to be your story. And we see it in scripture all the time. Joseph's story ended with he was abused, he was victimized, and he became the hero of his story. So we want to teach you how to make that transition. And it's really, really important, especially this holiday season. We don't want to go into 2026 living the same way if you're overing and doing too much and feeling exhausted and resentful and don't know how to say no. Let's teach you how to move your storyline into a different place.
Leslie, that was so beautiful and it's so powerful. And I can imagine many hearts are stirring right now. And if your heart is stirring, if you know someone that needs to hear this information, share this link with them. Click it for yourself. You will want to reserve a seat for this workshop because it's going to be powerful. And, here's the deal. Just because you say no doesn't mean you're rejecting somebody or some idea or anything. Just because the women said no about walking day 2 or the folks said no doesn't mean they rejected the walk or wanting, cancer to be eradicated, right? Or more research to be done. They said no because they knew their limits. And no one shamed them. And no one, what would be different? I love that you brought those questions up, Leslie, because it's powerful for us to take a pause and ask ourselves, if I made a different choice, if I realized that there is more than I can see right now, I have other choices that I could make. What might be possible? What might be possible? And sometimes it helps even joining a live like this, sharing in conversation, looking at the feed. This is helping you to see a little bit of what might be possible that you have not seen before. And so we're so glad that you're here. And we've got questions on the tracker too, Leslie.
You want to read one?
Sure, I would be happy to. It says, I finally realized, okay, here's somebody who's saying, I finally realized that enough is enough. I've awakened to my husband's emotional abuse, especially after discovering his affair this year and his continued dishonesty. I'm so sorry. I believe he's still lying and he isn't doing the work needed. I'm scared because of how long I've been married, being a stay-at-home mom and having children still at home. But through prayer, I know it's the right step. Here's her big question, Leslie. Do you have advice for navigating this difficult season for both me and my children? I'm afraid of making mistakes that could hurt them.
Well, first of all, let's get perfect mom off the table. Okay? We're all going to make mistakes that hurt our kids, right? It's just part of parenting. It's just part of parenting. All right. I have parented 2 children. They've told me of all my mistakes and they're fine. They're fine. All right. So I think that we exaggerate the impact a mistake can make on our children. If we can own our mistake to our child, just like your husband made a mistake in your marriage, right? If he owned his mistake and was honest about it and humble and did his work to not repeat that mistake, your marriage would be repairable, wouldn't it? Right? So when we make a mistake with our kids and we own it and we talk about it, my kids love for me to say at this age, my kids are in their 40s. And if I say to my kids, I realized that when I was a parent, I made a few mistakes and this is what I would do differently. They're like, yeah, mom, and my daughter is taking some of that for her parenting. Right. And so our kids aren't afraid of our mistakes. Your kids are more resilient than that. So let's take that off the table so that you don't live in fear of making a choice. Right. And if you make a mistake, you can say to your kids, I thought I should have turned right, but I think Walmart's not down here. I think we should go left. Right. You can teach them how to deal with mistakes in a healthy way. So let's take that off the table. The second thing is, I think that if I could give you one piece of advice, I would encourage you to connect with other women who are in your shoes, who you respect, women who might be a little bit further ahead. In our support group of Conquer, we have a support group for Christian women who are in destructive marriages, who are contemplating whether to get divorced, and having that support and having a lot of different journeys that you're watching. I think you can see some women who are doing some great things and some women who are still stuck in unhealthy habits. And it sort of helps you to kind of see who you want to emulate and who you don't want to emulate. And it gives you strength. We do better, like Leanne said, in the walk when you're joined together with other women who are going through a storm. I think you can walk better. Leanne had a story. Share the story about linking the arms, because I think that was really powerful that you shared with me.
Yeah, it really was. So we were in our last mile of walking along the ocean side, and the storm was coming. Like I literally was having a hard time walking straight and even taking a step, right? The rain was coming at us. My girlfriend and I were walking together, and there was a moment where we reached out to one another and we grabbed each other's arms, and we were no longer walking alone in our own strength. We had the strength of two, and we stood shoulder to shoulder together, arms locked. And the minute we did that, Leslie, it was like the storm stilled. Not, it wasn't quiet, it wasn't done, but it stilled in that space. It got less powerful. It was not as forceful against us because we had one another. And we walked arm in arm all the way through the finish line together. And we went through it and we got there and we were beaming about what had just happened, because I don't think either one of us wanted to walk that last mile or half mile alone.
Yeah.
It would have been scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So partner, there's divorce care everywhere in the US. You can look for that. There's, during the workshop, I'm going to be offering a coaching program that you can join. That would be a 6-month coaching program that I'll do that after the webinar if you want more help in changing your story, changing your life. And we've been doing that for 10 years. We've had great success in helping women learn to be empowered to change old habits, to change old thinking, to change their story. And so if that's something that would be helpful to you, I hope you come to the webinar, and afterwards, if that would be something that would be a resource for you. So I think connecting with other people who understand and know what your life is like and can support you and encourage you and, just walk with you during this new changing. The third thing I would say is, while you're still home with your children, if you haven't left the home yet, you said, I have a lot of fear. I've been a stay-at-home mom, etc. I think make sure that you are polishing your job skills, whatever they are. The job market is scary for women to re-enter after they've been a stay-at-home mom for a long time. But I just want you to know, my daughter works in a office and she's hiring people all the time. And it is really hard to find a good employee these days. It's really hard to find someone who is dependable and faithful and follows directions and does what they're needing to do and offers good service. You may have a whole edge, even if you may not have tons of computer skills. I remember when my sister went back in the job market after being home, she didn't know how to turn on a computer. She had great people skills. And people skills, soft skills, are really hard to come by these days. Kids are not learning that. They're on the computer all the time. They have the computer skills. And so I think if you can have confidence that you can land a job or get retrained or recertified or relicensed if you had a career going to college and all of those, if you were a teacher and you let your teacher license expire, start working on that, not just your kids' issues, but your need to support your family. Because even though you think that maybe you'll get half of this and half of that and all of that, great, you might. And then again, it might take a long time to actually happen. And so when you have confidence that I can adult myself into employment and work full time if I have to, and I can get a job and I can do it and I can take care of my kids, that gives you the strength not to continue to put up with a husband who's not 100% committed to repairing the relationship and doing his own work, which it sounds like that's where you're at. So those would be some of my thoughts. Any thoughts for you, Leanne?
Well, I would just echo what you said, and we will. When you blow it, own it. And you can invite other people in to change, but they won't always receive your invitation. And I will just, somebody I feel maybe needs to hear this, because I'm seeing it in the chat. Please don't tolerate harm. If you're being harmed, get some support. The webinar will give you some courage. It'll give you some language. It'll help you to see things you can't see on your own right now. So I hope that you join us there. And I'm so grateful that you had the courage to be here today. We've got a lot of people on with us right now, Leslie, and the questions that are coming through. The next question is talking about what about when it's enough and is enough with my friendships? That this person is feeling they're always the one to initiate conversations, to initiate get-togethers, right? I heard this phrase the other day, Leslie, when we were out on our walk, that we have friends who are everyday friends, and then we have friends who are Saturday friends or once a month friends. And that can be hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for those of us who love connection and all of the things. And so getting really clear, because I think we have a lot of these collisions when our values, or a lot of these challenges when our values collide. And so, really getting to know the other person and really getting to know you and why you say yes and why you say no. And inviting in some curious questions within a friendship oftentimes helps clear away some of the fog.
Yeah. And I think this question on friendship, I'll tell a story about, I think when is enough when I'm the only one in my friendships to initiate conversations and get-togethers. I'm tired of feeling lonely and having to carry all the weight of keeping relationships going. I think that's your red flag, is that why are you carrying all the weight?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so what are your relationships really? Are they mutual friendships, or are they just ministry relationships? And ministry relationships are important. If I end up, I'm not going to, but if I were to invite the strays from my neighborhood to have Thanksgiving dinner, we probably wouldn't necessarily have a friendship. It would be more of I minister to them this day, and maybe it would develop into a friendship and maybe not. And I remember one time I mistook a ministry relationship I had to someone for a friendship. And so they never did reciprocate. And I was really hurt about that, because I used to invite all the strays when we lived in Pennsylvania, because we didn't have any family for Thanksgiving other than our kids. And so anybody who didn't have family to go to, they could come to our house for Thanksgiving. They could come to our house for Christmas. And I wasn't working at the time in this field. And so I was able to have the capacity to do that. And she never invited me back. And I was like getting a little resentful and like, how come you never invite us to your house? And how come she'd been to our house for Thanksgiving and for Christmas and for New Year's party and for, Easter egg hunt and all of the above. And she never reciprocated. And so I was starting to get a little resentful. So I think that resentment or that fatigue is a good red flag for you to have a conversation with yourself and a conversation with her, and to be able to clarify what the nature of your relationship is. And so I did it in a very unsavory way. I didn't want to do it. Even the Lord called me to do it. I wasn't going to do it. I was just going to write her off. But the Lord called me to do it. And I won't go into all the details because it's a pretty funny story. But when I started to say, I need to talk to you about something, and then I started boo-hooing, how come you never invite me over to your house? It was just so embarrassing. And she was mortified, and so the reason it turned out was that my house was nicer than hers. I did better than her. She had this inferiority complex about her house and about her hostessing and all of the things. And so, of course, she never wanted me to see her house, and she felt inferior. It wasn't about me at all. And so then we did develop a friendship after I was able to be honest and vulnerable with her. And so I'm wondering what would happen if you said to your friend, hey, I just want to do a checkup on our friendship. I'm feeling a little tempted to be kind of resentful that I'm doing all the work at keeping our friendship alive. And I don't want to, do CPR in a relationship that's perhaps died. And I'm just doing a checkup with you on where are you in our friendship? Because if I never called you, probably you would never call me. And that doesn't feel good as a friendship. Can you give me some feedback on how you're feeling as what I'm saying, something like that, a little bit not attacking or not hopefully as I did, you don't care about me kind of thing, but it might deteriorate to that. And if it does, let it, because that you're showing your heart and you're showing your humanness and letting the other person know. Like one of the things that this woman learned was that my insecurity and my not enoughing really impacted her. It really impacted Leslie. Like, look, I hurt her and I didn't mean to. right? But I hurt her. And if I hadn't broken down, she wouldn't have known that. So I think those are the parts that you can take that initiation and see where the friendship is. And if it is just, I like getting together with you, you pay for lunch, it works for me. If that's all it is, then now you know. And I think this is part of where we try to teach women to have honest, even conversations about their marriage. Because sometimes you are just the giver, you're just the wife, you're just the maid, you're just the sex partner, you're just a friend who initiates. You're not anybody special. Anybody can do it. If you don't do it, I'll find someone else who will do it. And so understand that sometimes you're in relationships that aren't really mutual and aren't really reciprocal. And no wonder you're exhausted and tired and getting a little cranky.
Well, yeah, let's say I love that you brought that up because they are. And then there's another thing that you say so often and you remind all of us about, and that the third part in relationship is freedom. So it's mutuality, it's reciprocity, and it's freedom. And here's the deal. One thing that I really appreciated about the story that you just shared, even though it was hard, it was vulnerable, all the things, you felt free and safe enough to break down. And I will share with you that, even thinking about the title of the workshop coming up, From Breakdown to Breakthrough, just because you're breaking down doesn't mean it's bad. Oftentimes, the times in my life where I felt shattered the most, those were my pivotal moments where the Lord was waiting for me to kind of get to that end of myself. So I actually saw him more clearly. He had flourished on the other side of that for me. But I had an opportunity to embrace it and embrace the boohoo, whatever it is that I needed to do, and take off the mask, quit pretending. Because like we say so often, healthy people live in truth, and we're committed to truth.
Yeah, so good, Leanne. Thank you for sharing that, because our vulnerability isn't necessarily a weakness. It's honesty. And people either love that or they're repelled by it. Darkness hates the light.
Yes, it does.
So if we turn the light on our heart and we show what's hurting us or what we don't like, and we talk about that, and someone wants to throw a cover over it, dismiss us, shame us, reject us, it's painful to go through that process, but it really gives you clear information. This person is not my friend. Why am I wasting any more energy? Right? Jesus didn't waste energy on people who were not his friends. He ministered to people graciously, and then he went off by a quiet place. He had Mary, Martha, Lazarus, Peter, James, and John. Those were the people that we know were his friends. Not everybody was Jesus's friend. We don't have to be friends with everybody. And so if you're getting a sense that this really isn't a mutual friendship, ask some questions. I wouldn't just drop her, but I would ask some questions so that she has an opportunity to reflect and grow as well. I remember coaching a woman recently, Leanne, from Conquer, and she said, I've never told my husband how unhappy I am. Well, give him some information before you divorce him, please, right? Because that's not fair to hold all that resentment inside for 30 years and then say, done. That's kind of not fair. I had a husband who did that to his wife. He'd resented her for 30 years and never told her. She was totally shocked by his filing for divorce. And so I think we have to use our words enough already to communicate that things have to change. I'm not willing to live like this, whether it's with a friend or with your kids or with your neighbors or with your husband. I'm not willing to listen like this anymore. We get to speak up for ourselves. Now, tonight we're going to do another Facebook Live. I'm going to be on, I think I'm not sure, Coach Diana, I think, on who am I when I stop trying to fix, please, or prove. So it's a good sequel to today's workshop, to today's Facebook Live. So, all right, if I stop doing this for everybody, if I say enough is enough, all of a sudden I'm not sure who I am. If I'm not the fixer and I'm not the pleaser and I'm not the doer and I'm not the giver, who am I? And we're going to talk about that tonight. So it's at 7:30 Eastern time. We hope you show up. There's a lot of questions here, so I'm going to take the same questions here, and we're going to bring them into tonight as well. So show up tonight if you asked your question. We'll try to get to more time for questions. But let's do one more before we close. Leanne, you want to read the question? Do you want me to?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. We are living separately, but trying to be respectful to one another. What? I love the sweet sister's question. Why do I feel annoyed when my husband goes out and doesn't say bye when I'm in the house? I struggle with his disrespect.
You want to start with that one?
Well, sure. I mean, this is big. We could do a whole Facebook Live on this. Being dismissed. I talk to many women, and I've been there myself of feeling invisible. So I was reading in my devotion this morning, Leslie. I've got it right here, right? It was all on expectations. And so one of my favorite authors is Max Lucado. And this goes right along with this question. Is it okay if I just share this quote?
Sure, go ahead.
It says, lower your expectations of earth. If this isn't heaven, so don't expect it to be. All right. So can I just be real? I'm just gonna, sometimes dudes are dense. Sometimes women are too. I get that you're annoyed. It happens to me too. We have been invisible. And I will share with you, out of all of my years, 6 decades of living, and my desire, I have struggled my entire life, friends. I was just talking to God about this yesterday on my long walk, about being seen, known, and heard. And I get it. You want the most significant person in your life to see, know, and hear you. And he may not have the capacity in which to do that today, tomorrow, yesterday. But friend, that does not define who it is that you are. It does not diminish your worth or your value. And so I just want to send a hug to you in this space, encourage you to hug on yourself. And please remember that he doesn't define you. Our Heavenly Father does. And it's okay for you to say on the other side of that, hey, hello. I've done this. Hello. You're not the only human in the house. It would really honor me if when you leave the home and when you come in the door, if you would acknowledge my presence. Are you willing to do that? And then see how they answer that response.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially in this step. You're separated from him. You're living in house separation. And so, whether or not you go forward with divorce or you go forward with reconciliation, I'm not sure where you're at. But even asking that simple question, I would like you to greet me and say goodbye when you leave. That would feel decent, respectful to me while we're still living in the same home. Are you willing to do that? And you'll see two things. One is either he's going to be honest with you that he's not willing to do that, which actually is a good thing if he's honest, but he might say yes and then not do it, which tells you he's not doing any internal work. He's placating and avoiding, and that's not any good tools to reconcile this relationship, right? Or if he tries and he does do it, that might be a sign of, wow, he heard me and he is trying to change and honor me in this small way, even while we're separated. So this is the dance that we do, that we have to speak up. Like you have to speak up to that friend who's not calling you and not initiating anything in the relationship. You're carrying the heavy load of the friendship. You have to speak up and see how they respond to understand what your next step is. Do I end the friendship because she doesn't care and she writes me off and she makes fun of me or she ignores me? Or does she repent and we can be reconciled? Does he write me off? So this is the next step of the story, is you need to say, I don't like this. I thought we agreed to be respectful. To respect to me says that you say hello and you say goodbye when you leave the house. Can you do that? And that will tell you a whole lot more about what your next step might be. All right. So we are at time. Instagram's going to cut us off any moment. So I thank you for coming. Come back at 7:30 tonight. We're going to talk about the topic, who are you when you start doing this? When you stop making everybody else's life work, what about your own life? Who are you? Where are you? And we're going to unpack that tonight. So come back. We're not going to do a Facebook Live tomorrow because if you're like me, you're going to be cooking. My grandkids are coming over and we're making stuff. together, and that will be our day is to prepare for Thanksgiving. So tonight is our night, and I hope to see you then. Thanks, Leanne, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Leslie. It was an honor to be here.
All right, take care, guys. We'll see you soon tonight. Bye-bye.